It's not surprising that the Hebrew children were anxious, afraid of what would happen to them, where the future would take them, if they would have enough. And you know, some things never change, at least not much. Hundreds of years later, the author of Matthew writes, "Which of you by worrying can add a moment to your life?" Why be anxious? Stop worrying. God knows everything you need. Live into God's purposes and things will work out. Back in early July, I talked to a local Detroit pastor asking about this presbytery, the city of Detroit in general, the schools, the impact of the economy on the local church. And one of the more poignant things that this pastor told me was that in this current economic climate, a death in the congregation was handled in a pretty matter-of-fact way, kind of routine, no particular crisis. The real crisis was when someone lost her or his job. Job losses among congregants and people they knew had stresses running rampant through this congregation and probably others, to the point that priorities were becoming skewed in amazing and alarming ways. Many, indeed, are living with huge amounts of stress these days, while at this very same time, we are learning more and more about how detrimental stress can be in our lives. We know, or at least have expected for some time now, that too much stress is not good for us. But now we are learning even more about the specific damage that too much stress can do to our bodies, to our effective functioning, and keep us from living as whole and complete people. Many are worried about not having enough, about not being able to help children finance their educations or provide some support in those early days of young adulthood. We worry about not being able to assist parents with needs that often come in later years. We worry about not being able to live our retirement years as we had hoped and expected. But in spite of our worries, the fact is, for many of us, though certainly not all of us, we really do have what we need. There really is enough. Sometimes, though, our perception of what we need is really more about what we want and not at all about real needs. It was interesting with the children this morning. Every parent knows when children explain what they need, sometimes what they're really expressing is what they really want, with little basis on need. In fact, occasionally, a want fulfilled is not even in the best interests of the child. And they need help from parents and other trusted adults to sort out the difference between wants and needs. Now, other times, with honest to goodness real needs, we may not think our needs are being met because they are not being met in the way that we expected. God's provisions for us could in fact be right before our eyes. But we sometimes miss what is there for us, waiting and watching for something different, all the while living in fear, anxiety, discontent, sometimes anger and despair, complaining vociferously, and feeling ignored. You may remember the story about the man whose city is flooding. And as the waters rise, he moves to the upper levels of his house until finally he is on the roof and the waters continue to rise. As the situation becomes increasingly dangerous, the man gets scared, and so he prays, "God, help me, save me." And he hears a voice in the distance saying, "I'm coming, I will save you." The man relaxes a bit, certain that God will come to his rescue. And after a while, a woman comes along in a canoe, paddling over to the man, offering him a place in her canoe, and the man refuses, saying, "No, God will save me." After her repeated offers and are refused, she says, "Okay, whatever," and she paddles away. A little while later, the waters continue to rise, and a family in a rowboat come along, and they see the man on the roof, and thinking that they can get one more person in their boat safely, they row vigorously against the waters to get to the edge of the roof, ready to assist the man in getting into their boat. And again, the man refuses, saying, "God will save me." As the dark, dirty water rises higher and higher, the man clings precariously to the chimney. Then he hears a motor off in the distance and spots something coming toward him, and he is sure that this is finally God coming to save him. But alas, it is fire and rescue coming through in a motorboat, fighting the swirling, rising waters, doing the final sweep, making sure that everyone is safely out. Spotting the man on the roof, they rush to his aid, grabbing ropes and a life jacket and blankets, maneuvering the boat as close to him as possible, and they reach out to the man, and he won't budge, repeatedly telling them, God will save me. Over and over, the fire and rescue crew says, come on, man, get in the boat. Come on, man, get in the boat. Until eventually, it's too dangerous to stay any longer. If they are going to save the others in the boat, they have to move on. Finally, as the water is lapping around his shoulders, the man reminds God of God's promises to come to his rescue, noting that something needs to happen really, really soon, or he is going to die. And then the man hears the same voice coming to him, the voice of God. I tried 3 times to save you. I sent 3 boats. You wouldn't get in. When God provides, sometimes in ways for which we are not prepared, often through the generosity and care of others, we need to be ready to accept, and to accept graciously. At times in our lives, all of us need something, need someone to stand beside us, to walk with us, accompanying us on our journey. We in the human family are social creatures designed to live in community, generously giving, graciously receiving. This give and take, this healthy mutual interdependence is essential to our well-being, whether we admit it or not, and it is essential to the well-being of everyone else. There is no doubt many things in life are difficult, even unfair, wrong, perhaps evil. Still, even in the midst of the most difficult of circumstances, with limited resources, anxiety and fear threatening to overwhelm us, amazing things can happen when a community works together, drawing on resources of creativity, imagination, cooperation, gratitude, energy, love, generosity. We are never promised that everything in life will be good. We are never promised that life will be easy. We are promised that God is with us always, and we do have others who will walk with us when we need a companion, if only we will let our need be known. And we are given all of the resources that we need. The whole world has all of the resources needed if we will live equitably in the human family, creatively taking our places of responsibility among the whole people of God. Thanks be to God. Amen.